I quite like my mines, but you might want an enemy that's got some animations. So I'm going to show you how to do that by adding a fox enemy, just because it's an asset that we've already got that has some animations on it. If you've decided to make a fox character, then maybe you want to have a dog as your enemy chasing you around. It seems kind of thematic, but I'm going to use fox. It's got some nice animations on it that look kind of like it might be chasing me. I'm going to drag the fox GLB asset into my assets folder, and I should see it there. Now I'm just going to copy my mine scene. I can do that by scrolling down to mine.tscene in my resources, and I'm going to right click on it and duplicate it, same as we can do with meshes and things, and call it fox.tscene. Now I've got a copy of my mine scene called fox. It doesn't look much like a fox, but all we need to do is delete this entire mesh, delete that mesh, find my fox GLB, and drag that into the scene, and that's my new mesh. We can leave our 3 hitboxes pretty much as they are. We've got our proximity one, our hitbox, and our collision area. And I probably don't want to call it mine, so I'm just going to rename this to fox, so that when I drag copies of this into my game, they're going to be called fox instead of mine. I can use mostly the same script on the fox, but I don't want it to be exactly the same. And you'll see right now when I click on this script button, it takes me through to the mine script, because duplicating a scene doesn't duplicate the script. They're both attached to the same script, but it's a pretty easy fix. I click this button to detach that script, and then I click it again to add a new script, which I can save as fox. Now I'm just going to grab the code from mine and copy the entire thing into my fox script. Before we add any new code, let's just check out how our fox looks like in game. I'm going to go to my main scene, and I'm going to drag in a fox.tscene. I'm going to put it far enough away from me that it's not going to trigger the proximity field. That way I get to see what it looks like when it's standing still and what it looks like when it starts chasing me. And you'll see it's a floating fox, but it does follow me because it's got exactly the same script as the mine. If we didn't want the fox to be floating, one thing we could do is bake an entirely separate navigation mesh for it that had a smaller cell height, so that it would follow a mesh that was appropriate size for our fox rather than this one up here in the air. But the sort of cheat little shortcut I can do is just move its origin so that it's above the fox, and because the origin is the thing that the navigation agent is making follow the mesh. So I'm going to click on my fox mesh and transform it down -1 meter. And now this origin point will be 1 meter above the fox, and it should line up nicely with our very high mesh. And I'm just going to grab all 3 of these collision shapes. I think I can select all 3 at once by holding down Control, and update all of their transforms to be ½ meter down, -0.5. Because they were already underneath the fox anyway. Now they're lining up nicely with the fox. So all my collision shapes are exactly where they need to be, but the origin is sneakily actually up just a little bit higher, and that origin is the thing that's going to be controlled by my agent. I'm just going to need to drag this fox out from under the ground because I've just moved it down 1 meter, and you should see it nicely follow along with me at ground level. Perfect following fox. Of course, we haven't added the animations yet, so that's the next step. We're going to go to our fox mesh. We're going to right click it and give it editable children so that I can reach the animation player. And I'm going to drag a reference to the animation player into my fox script so we can start animating our fox. We can tell if the fox is going to be moving or not because we've got this nice if statement here, if the agent is not finished, and that's the block of code where we update the fox's position. So now it's going to be the same block of code where we get the animation player to play the run animation. So the only time we wouldn't be running is if we're not moving anywhere. And for that we can just add an else statement. This else statement means the navigation agent is finished. And all we need to do in that state is play the idle animation. The nice thing about this is that the agent actually calls itself finished when it's not actively chasing anything. So at the start of the scene, this also will be setting the animation to idle, even though it hasn't finished doing anything, it just hasn't started doing anything. The agent tells us that it's finished, so we can use that same block at the start of the code, and I should be able to see that in action. Before my fox has found me, it's looking everywhere for me, it's in the idle state, and as soon as I come within proximity of it, it starts running after me, which almost looks quite good. Oops, I blew the fox up there. But of course it's not turning to face me, so there's only one extra line of code for getting the fox to turn to face me. We've done it before. We're going to get a reference to this mesh, drag that into my script, hold down Control, it's called Fox, and we're going to update that mesh's basis. So here, when we're running, I'm going to get the Fox mesh that I've dragged in. I could call it Fox mesh if I wanted to be precise, but Fox will do, it's going to work for us. And I'm going to update its basis to basis dot looking at direction. Exactly the same as we did for our player. The player was looking in the camera direction. We're just going to get the fox to look in the direction that it's running. We'll check that out, and once the fox starts chasing me, oh look, it's going completely backwards, but it's working. It's facing me, and it's doing a kind of moonwalk to get towards me. So quick and dirty fix for that will be to add a negative sign in front of the direction, get the fox to turn around, face the opposite direction. And now it's chasing me, and it looks pretty nice. I've got a running fox chasing me everywhere around the scene, and I think it just exploded. But that's some pretty nice animating enemies there, so long as you want them to explode at the end. And I think we'll call that done for this video.